Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. Before we get started, okay, that was weird. Before we get started, I would like to announce yesterday night, you know what? This is how weird I am. All of a sudden, I was like, I want to film a commentary. And I spun the wheel, and I finally filmed the Snow White, the Disney Snow White commentary. And surprisingly, I got through the whole thing. I didn't have a single problem. It was actually probably, I hate to admit this, but it's been one of my favorite things that I've done the entire year. You know, I've had a lot of good videos in the past year, but I feel like this video in particular, I had such a fun time making it. It was so fun to do a commentary for the first time in a long time. And so it is currently up on Patreon. That is the Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies Patreon. And it is available for all tiers. So if you're really interested in watching it, I highly recommend you go check it out. And who knows, maybe you'll stick around for all the other stuff that I have coming up, because I'm gonna give you everything on Patreon. I am just gonna unload whenever I have the time. I'm gonna unload on you, and I'm gonna give you all the behind the scenes stuff, because I'm making films, I'm making a show. I've got a lot of stuff cooking. I do these commentaries, I do reviews, TV reviews. Safi will join in with me once in a while, hopefully, maybe, I don't know. But go ahead and go check it out. It is 2 hours long, and it's very fun. And I had a great time watching the movie. It was definitely an experience that I will remember. And so now let's get into the review. I am here today to review Freakier Friday. For starters, I love the original. Well, not the original, but the remake of the original. Now, I don't know if I've seen the very original, like from the 70s. I think I saw it as a kid, and I fell asleep, and I never watched it again. Because as a kid, I would go to the library a lot, because the library actually had a better movie selection than any of the movie stores, the video stores. They had tons of weird, obscure movies. They had tons of Universal Monsters movies. They had Adventures in Babysitting. They had a lot of great stuff. And so I would go to the library a lot, and I think that's where I saw the very original, and I didn't get it. But the remake, the 2000s movie, I love that movie so much. It's such a great movie, and the thing is that a lot of people nowadays with this sequel, they say that, like, this one's for the girls who grew up watching the first one, but, like, the first one is not a chick flick. It's a movie that anyone can enjoy. It's such a great movie. It's so funny. It's so classic. And it's so colorful. And it's just everything about it I love. There might have been one thing about it I didn't like. Probably not. I'm just saying that to be safer than sorry, because I tend to dislike things sometimes. Not all the time, but I do tend to, not like things when I don't like them. So, and that right there, that was fake, by the way. That the second part, I swear. But my voice is still getting lower for some reason, and so like every video now, it's becoming like a curse. It's becoming a curse for the channel. Safi, she coughs every video. And my voice breaks every single video now. So maybe I'm going through my 5th puberty. So anyways, very apt for this movie. And so, I gotta be honest, guys. Freakier Friday I saw the pictures. You know, they used like one of the pictures from the trailer to say like, look how good movies used to look, and look how they look now. Look how ugly and dry and dull and colorless they look now. And I didn't let that, make me less excited for the movie. And I wanted to love the movie. I wanted to really like this movie. I was really excited. Even though, I kind of had a sneaking suspicion that, like, there might be some elements that I don't like, the Gen Z characters. Because, Gen Z, they ruin everything. They really do. Like, back in the early 2000s, like, it's really weird because in the early 2000s, like, yes, like, they always, every generation, they have to quote-unquote modernize things. But it never has felt as annoying and terrible as this. I mean, the first 25 minutes of this movie is like torture. It's like, is it Japanese water torture? Like, it is absolute torture. It's misery. It's painful. There's so much Gen Z crap. Like, they make a joke about gaslighting. They make a joke about, these two girls, they're going to have a sleepover, and they're going to braid each other's hair, but they're not going to do it in a cultural appropriating way. And, it was like, oh, God. It was just like, ugh. It was like, I just wanted to throw up. I was so sick. It was so bad. And I was like, you know what this movie is giving? It is giving straight to Disney Plus vibes. That's what I honestly thought this entire movie. It didn't have the sauce that the original movie had. It didn't have the spice. It didn't have the sizzle. It just had a bunch of jokes and a plot that was like a TV show episode that was made in like the 80s. Like the plot to this movie is so predictable, and it's not predictable in like, like there's a lot of movies nowadays like, like Top Gun Maverick, for instance, like, well, actually, that movie had a really interesting twist near the end where you thought something was going to happen and then they tricked you. But for, a lot of movies nowadays, like these nostalgia bait movies, I did it again, they're so predictable and they just follow a safe formula. They don't do anything different. They don't do anything interesting, and it's just the same old stuff that we've seen before. The plot of this movie, you can guess what's going to happen from the trailer. You can guess that, like, obviously it's not going to turn out that way. It's going to turn out like, just perfect and, exactly how you'd expect. And so that's one of my big issues with this movie, is that the original, I never really thought about how it was going to turn out because it was just such a good movie. It was so entertaining and interesting. I wasn't thinking about how, I know that this movie's going to end up like this. I know that they're going to get their own bodies back. I just have fun with it. I just enjoyed the ride. But this movie, it was so badly written that you could feel what was going to happen, like, from a mile away. Okay, so I will say it is nice to see a lot of these actors back. Jamie Lee Curtis is not one of them, but Lindsay Lohan, I really like seeing her. I'm really glad that she's doing better. She looks really good. She looks really, really good. She looks happy. And so I'm really happy about that, honestly. Chad Michael Murray, he's married to the hot love interest from Disturbia. So, I knew that he was doing okay. You guys want to know something funny about his wife? She followed me on Twitter this one time, like a couple of years ago. Like, she just followed me and like out of nowhere. And then I followed her back. And then 2 hours later, so like it might have been 1 or 2 hours, like she unfollowed me. It was so weird. I was like, what the hell? Like, the love interest from Disturbia followed me on Twitter. And then I looked her up and I was like, oh shit, she's married to Chad Michael Murray. But yeah, that's got to be one of the funniest experiences I've ever had with a celebrity. I don't know what happened there, you know, and obviously she was like, uh-oh. So, yeah, I don't want to talk about that anymore. It's kind of embarrassing. But I also love seeing Mr. Bates, the teacher. He's exactly like how he was before. He did a fantastic job. He was one of the better parts of the movie, although he kind of just had a glorified cameo. They did have a new kind of teacher or counselor or something. She wasn't good at all. She was very try-hard, and that's another thing, too, is that a lot of the actors from the first movie, they're not trying. They're just doing. But a lot of actors nowadays, you know, I hope they get better. I'm not trying to insult them, but a lot of them are trying so hard that they're fake. They're phony, and this teacher was one of them. You know, she was very, very fake. And she was trying so hard. And she also, a lot of actors nowadays, they can't act in a movie without having this kind of meta feeling to them where it's like you can tell that they're acting like they're in a movie. You know, like they're not really acting like how they'd act in real life if they were these characters. And so that was an issue as well. But yeah, the worst part of the movie is like the whole thing. But the first part is the worst. The first 25 minutes, they start the movie off. I don't think this is a spoiler at all because it's before the premise of the movie even starts. But Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis does like a podcast for like 1 minute of the movie. You know, and that's another thing. Like, oh, this movie had to have a podcast. They had to have podcasting in the movie to appeal to Gen Z. And then they had to have pickleball in the movie. Pickleball. They had to have a pickleball tournament in the movie to appeal to Gen Z. But Jamie Lee Curtis did this like podcast exposition dump. And it was really hilarious because it was so incredibly similar to her, like, you know, her exposition dump in that shitty Halloween Ends that she helped ruin. And, you know, she did the same exact thing in that where she had the memoir and, you know, she's doing the exposition at the beginning and the end. And it's just like, oh, God, not this bitch again. You know, like years and years ago, like she was like done with acting, done with Hollywood. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, yeah. Everyone forgot about me. All they think about now is yogurt. So I got to come back and do Halloween. I got to do Freaky Friday. I got to do all the stuff that I was already in. I got to do all these sequels. And, you know, because I don't want to be the yogurt woman. You know, like that's what happened with her. It's like it's kind of like the opposite of Lindsay Lohan, to where she kind of like, it's weird because Jamie Lee Curtis is a lot older than Lindsay Lohan. But Lindsay Lohan, she went through this terrible period and she bounced back and she's now in a really good place, thankfully. But Jamie Lee Curtis continued to sell out for the past I don't know how many years, doing these terrible, terrible sequels. And there's a lot of other stuff too I'm not going to talk about. But anyways, she says that Lindsay Lohan's character, she decided to become a single mom. Like, I've never, like, this is, and as soon as I heard this, I was like, oh, God. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, okay. Modern movies. And always in the kids' movies, too. And in every single kids' movie, there's got to be a single mother character. But just right off the bat, it's like, she decided to become a single mom. Like, it was so weird. It was so bizarre. And they never explained that. Like, they never explained, like, that whole story, like, the other girl, because the movie eventually, it's very confusing, too. That's another bad thing about the movie. It's very, very confusing. She meets, okay, no. She has the daughter. The daughter goes to school. The daughter doesn't like this other British girl who's like, I'm a sassy British girl. And she's kind of a bitch. She's kind of a bully. And, of course, it's all a facade, as we all would have expected. Oh, it's all fake. She's really a great person on the inside, because that's how it works, right? And, we haven't seen that a million times in movies before, but they meet, and then at the same time, they get in trouble in science class. And then at the same time, though, Lindsay Lohan meets the father of the British girl, and they fall in love, and they're going to get married. And the issue is that the dad wants to take the family to London, to England, which that is another big thing about this movie, is that, like, nobody who is, like, anything would want to be in England now, with all the stuff that's going on with immigration and the government and censorship, arresting people for posting memes. Free speech is dead over there. The citizens, they're pussy whipped. They don't know what to do. They need to revolt immediately. But, they have a lot of big problems in Britain. And, we do as well. But Britain is in another level. And so it's like, I was definitely, like, rooting for these girls to break up their parents. Because that's what the movie turns into, is that all four of these main characters, except for the fiance, the guy, they all switch bodies. And to me, I think that the concept there, it was very classical, like a classic sequel type of concept where, in the first movie, 2 people switched bodies. Well, in this movie, 4 people switch bodies. But it is very, very confusing at the beginning. The editing is very, very confusing. It's so fast-paced. It's kind of like getting sick on a carnival ride, on a theme park ride, and you're just like, whoa, I don't know where I'm going. It's very, very weird. And but the ironic part, this is the part of the movie that really, really is hilarious, and it completely ruins the entire movie. Regardless, if you love the movie, I'm happy for you, because it's a fun movie. It's a comfort kind of movie. There's nothing like really like offensively bad about it. It's not like a terrible movie. In fact, I'm probably a little mean to the movie, and it's just because, you have the other movie and it was a lot better. It was a million times better, to be quite honest. But the big issue is that we spend 90% of the movie with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, which, it's good because they were the better actors. They were both more likable than the kids. The Gen Z kids, they were not likable at all. They were nothing but stereotypes, and they acted like children. I know they're supposed to be in 9th grade, but, like, they acted like they were in grade school. They were that, like, stupid and immature and just very stereotypical Gen Z, very unlikable characters. But the issue is that the core of the movie is supposed to be about the kids getting along, the kids bonding, the kids finding out that this guy that Lindsay Lohan's marrying, he's the perfect guy, and he's just amazing. And that we'll talk about that, because that's my other issue with the movie. He's so perfect. He's the greatest. He's the greatest guy of all time. Yeah. obviously he's just so perfect and he loves Lindsay Lohan and it's true love and oh it's like oh vomit. But all of that stuff gets completely like how would you say it, undermined because you're spending the majority of the movie with the adults, with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. And I know that they're supposed to be the kids, but it doesn't feel that way at all. You can clearly just, and that's another issue, is that because there's 4 people that switched bodies, it's a lot more obvious feeling that it's just the actors doing impressions. And so what I mean by that is like, let's say, okay, Halloween Resurrection, which I think is actually a very good movie. It's very funny. It's like a comedy spoof of Halloween. And fun fact, Jamie Lee Curtis said in the behind-the-scenes featurette that it was the perfect send-off for Laurie Strode. So that was her words, not mine. And nobody forced her to say that, but she said that. And, we all know how that turned out. That was the worst part of the movie. But you have the one Michael Myers. But then there's a part in the movie where Busta Rhymes dresses up like Michael Myers. And you have these 2 Michaels in the room together. And the real Michael Myers, he's like, who in the hell does this guy think he is? And Busta Rhymes he's like roasting him. He's making jokes at him. And it's just so funny. And it's so like just, off. And that's what this movie feels like times 4. Is that you can tell, like, the younger actors, look, they're not great. Okay, they need a lot of work. Or they need better roles. I think they're both good. They just both need better written roles. They should not be playing these stereotype characters because they never got to have the stuff happen that Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan had happen later in the movie, if that makes any sense. Like the character realizations, all that stuff, they don't get to have any of that, basically. Like, they have a little bit of stuff near the end, but they are completely shafted throughout this entire movie. And so it's like, the whole plot of the movie, it's very weird because you're watching this very cliche after-school special plot through the bodies of Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. And if they weren't in this movie, like if they weren't like the stars of the movie, it would be abysmal. It would be a train wreck. But the issue is that the movie is supposed to be about those kids. The adults, they basically don't have any realizations at all. They don't have any sort of character arcs or anything. The whole movie is centered around these Gen Z characters. And I won't lie, I did laugh a couple of times. There were a couple of times in the middle. In particular, I really like seeing Mark Harmon again, who is Jamie Lee Curtis's husband in the movie. In the original movie, he was just so funny, like the characters would do something like outrageous and he would be like, "What are you doing? Tess, why are you doing that?" Like he would just be really, really like deadly serious, when they're doing these really goofy things. And in this movie, he had one little moment. He's like, "Why are you guys on the floor?" It was really funny. But I actually wish this movie had more of him in the movie. I think that the movie, it could have used a little bit more of him. And then, now let's get to another big problem. And I know that this review, I feel bad because I feel like I'm being really, really, like, harsh, which is what Jamie Lee Curtis said about another, like, negative review. But, like, I feel it, look, if you wanted to see, like, a Freaky Friday sequel, and you wanted to go to the movies and have a comforting, nostalgia bait time, then maybe you'll like the movie. But for people who legitimately thought the first movie was a great movie, and they thought it was a classic comedy, and they were expecting like a really intelligently written sequel, well, I'm sorry, but this movie is bad. It's not that bad, but it's kind of bad. It's kind of it's exactly what I expected, but a little bit better, I guess. But anyways, as I said, the plot centers around not just the kids, but also Lindsay Lohan. Before the movie started, she gets engaged to this guy, this British guy. And, I like the actor. The actor's fine. I know that he was in a really bad Star Wars series that no one liked and no one watched, but he is fine. I'm not criticizing his character because I think he's bad. But this character is the most phony, baloney, just fake, superficial character I've ever seen. He's just so perfect in every single way, and it's like, oh my god, he's just so perfect. Like his teeth sparkle and his eyes light up, and he knows every single thing about Lindsay Lohan. Oh my god, he's just so perfect. And that's the thing, though, is that in the original Freaky Friday, all of the characters have flaws. All of them. All of them. There wasn't a single character that didn't at least have one character flaw. But this guy, he's played off as like he's just completely perfect in every way, shape, or form. So the whole movie is all about, well, obviously, he shouldn't break up with Lindsay Lohan because, he's just so perfect and there's nothing wrong with him. He's just the greatest guy you've ever seen. And it's so fake to me. It's so fake, and it just feels like you could have given him some character flaws. You could have given him more, because he just kind of disappears for most of the movie, and it's all about Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, who are pretending to be the kids, and then the kids who are pretending to be the adults, they're hardly in the movie at all, and they have basically nothing in the whole movie. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know what else to say. This was a weird movie, man. This was a really weird movie for a weird day. And I'm not going to talk about the day that I had until I give the review, but it was just a really weird day, and this movie was a really weird way to end a weird day, okay? And now let's talk about Chad Michael Murray, a.k.a. Jake. Jake, in the original movie, he's the love interest of Lindsay Lohan, and, they're perfect together in that movie. And it's really, really shitty what they did with his character. And to be honest, like, I think that the writer, she's a little limited in her range, because it feels like she kind of shafted the male characters, not because of anything like insidious or anything bad on her behalf, but just because maybe she feels like she doesn't know how to write the male characters, or maybe she wanted to make like a chick flick, but this movie turned out to be a chick flick, and the biggest evidence of that is what they do with Jake. Jake is just now automatically, he's not with Lindsay Lohan. He never got with her. They never got married. They never had a kid together. But Lindsay Lohan got together with this other mysterious guy who no one knows, and she had a kid with him, and then she just decided to become a single mom. Or the dad died or something. I don't know. I don't even know. They don't even really care to explain it. But he shows up in the movie, and he still looks pretty much the same. He had some good jokes, but they spoiled his good jokes in the trailer. And there's some good stuff with him, but overall, they just kind of treated him like he's like just like a side guy. You know, like he's just like that guy that like he shows up once in a while, and he can be like the joke of every single scene that he's in. And you know, like it they don't really take him seriously. And it's really odd because, you know, he was that love interest. And in the trailer, they kind of teased you, and they made it seem like, uh-oh, like he's coming back into the fold. And they gave him like this grand entrance where he shows up, and it's like they do this thing with like the sun, and it like completely covers his face, and he takes the sunglasses off, and it's like, oh yeah, look at Jake from the original movie. Like, it's just like this like badass intro. And then after that, he's just kind of played off like a joke character. Like the women, they borrow his car for the rest of the movie, so there's this like ongoing joke like, can I have my car back? And there's also this kind of weird... I know that there was a little bit of this in the original, I think. But now he is like a granny... what would you call it? A granny chaser. So first off, he hits on Jamie Lee Curtis. And then late at the end of the movie, he's actually like with like a 60-year-old woman. And it's just so odd. It's so weird. It just, I really don't like it at all. I really don't. Like, this is the type of movie that I kind of wish I never saw. Because the original movie, it's really damn good. This movie kind of ruins the original movie. Because now, you know that she didn't end up with Jake. You know that she didn't end up with the love interest of the first movie, which that's a typical modern thing that they do in modern movies. Is that like in the original movie, like, oh, like the characters got together, they were really happy. I can't remember. I think he did have some issues in the movie, but it wasn't like a deal breaker. But I can't remember. But we got to break them up. And so they're broken up immediately before the movie even began. So yeah, the movie ends in a very, very cliche way. She plays the song from the original movie, you know, the yeah, you know, that whole song. And it's just very, very cliche. And it's very by the books. It's just it's a movie. It's a sequel movie. So yeah, I was not happy with the movie that much. It's a serviceable chick flick, I guess you could say. And I think that that's terrible because, you know, I think that chicks deserve better. Like, chicks deserve the first movie. Chicks deserve Mean Girls. Chicks deserve Monster-in-Law. That's a really funny movie. And, you know, Jennifer Lopez, she's a good actress, but she's such a bitch in real life, from what we've all heard. And, you know, there's a lot of other great, like, chick flicks, but this movie is not one of them. It's very, very much like a goofy after-school special, and it's very basic, and it has a lot of Gen Z bullshit in it. And that's enough to turn you off. You know, like, if you're sick and tired of, like, everything having to be about Gen Z, then you're gonna be really unhappy with this movie. And for good reason. You know, for good reason. Because, like, why do we have to have Gen Z in everything? Everything has to be Gen Z-fied. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that with the films that I make. I'm sorry. It's just not good. You know, like, I don't want that shit in my movies. But, you know, like every other movie, you know, they got to have the Gen Z. It can't be Freaky Friday 2. it's got to be Freaky Friday 2 starring Gen Z. So, in terms of food, I got to talk about the day, okay? Because it's important to understand my review if you go through my day and my last night. So last night, after I did my Snow White commentary, which you can go check out right now on Patreon, on the Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies Patreon, I went to bed. But there was a thunderstorm outside, there was lightning, and so my bed is actually faced towards the window. So I sleep closest to the window, my head is right next to it, and so I did something that's actually very appropriate for reviewing this movie. I purposefully switched sides. So I slept facing away from the window because I thought maybe it'll be less dangerous or something. I don't know, something stupid like that. Well, then, throughout the night, there was a fly that kept on flying around me. Like, while I was sleeping, like, I would half wake up and I would hear this, and I would have to cover my head. Like, even though I was really hot, I was feeling really hot, you know, because in the summer, sometimes, I've got to be honest, the whole summer, I just completely take the covers off, you know, because it's just so hot, and I just can't stand it. But I had to cover my head, and then I woke up again, and I took the covers off, and I hear, and it finally got to where the fly had been harassing me the entire night. Like, it was like fucking stalking me the entire night. And then, boom, it went in for the attack. It went in it was trying to rape me. And so I took my hand, I just went BAM! And I don't know what happened to the fly, but I never heard or saw the fly again. And I can't find the body. I don't know what happened to it. Like, I don't know. But I smacked something, or I hit myself in the head, and then the fly went away. You know, it's kind of like, you know what? Remember that Breaking Bad fly episode? Maybe Walter White should have just slapped himself in the head, you know, and then maybe the fly would disappear. But you know, I don't know what happened to that thing, but it was really, really annoying. I got terrible sleep. I woke up with a headache. I slept on the wrong side of the bed. It was just like a nightmare, and the day had only just begun. We've only just begun. Okay? Like, it was just nightmarish. And so I wake up, and guess what, guys? We don't have any breakfast cereal. I eat Honey Nut Cheerios every day. There was no Honey Nut Cheerios, and we had no coffee either. I usually have cinnamon coffee every single morning. We had neither of those things. And I was like, oh my God. You know, like, this is my nightmare day. And so I had a completely different breakfast. And again, with the whole switcheroo, the switching up things, it was just very, very, like, hectic and, like, just completely, you know, like this movie. And then Safi and I went out door dashing, and this is where things really got interesting. So, first off, very appropriate for this movie, we had a double order. It was a double order, and the first order went fine. But, you know, a lot of DoorDash customers, I gotta say, stop asking for me to hand it to you, because so many of you guys are not ready to pick up your orders. You know, like, I show up at the door, and I'm just standing there for like 5 to 10 minutes. Like, when is this person going to come to the door? You know, like, I want to just leave it here, but I'm literally not allowed to. So then we go to the second person's house. And this is where things got really, really weird. Like this movie. there was a neighbor across the street, and he was sitting on the porch without a shirt on, which all by itself, okay, the guy's a weirdo, but it's hot outside, so who cares? He has an AR-15 sitting in his lap, and he has a giant sign that says, "Come and take it." And so I get out of the car, and I wasn't even trying to pay attention to him because, I'm not there to, look at him. I'm there to deliver these cookies to this woman. And I just stood there, and I waited and waited and waited for this woman to answer the door. And then there was a second guy who came outside on the porch with that other shirtless neighbor, and he didn't have a shirt on either. And they were both staring at me, and they were staring at Safi, and they were watching us, and it was so creepy. It was so weird and bizarre, and I was still standing there, and then finally she answered the door. And, that was weird. So then we went home, and then we went back out to DoorDash, and people have just been driving so badly all day. So in general, today was just such an off day. And it felt like it would be so appropriate for me to go see this Freaky Friday sequel that, that's what the whole movie's all about. These characters switch bodies. They all have like this big off day. And at the same time, I decided to get this pizza place, which I used to get this pizza place a couple of times. I really like their French bread pizza. They have these personal French bread pizzas. The place is called Milano's. And so this is my Milano's pizza review. I did not take a picture because I was so hungry and I was so drained emotionally, physically from the exhausting day. The pizza was not very good, and it was kind of exactly as mediocre as I would have expected it to be. There was a lot of bread, and it was just a lot of bread and not enough cheese, not enough sauce. The pepperoni was fine, but it was just very, very mid, and it was very, very oh, I should not have gotten this. It was just a big realization of oh, I made the wrong decision here. I should have switched and did something new and fun and different. And so that's what this movie was like. It was like the movie that you would have expected. Even though they tried to do some new things with the four people switching bodies, the movie is very much exactly what you'd expect, and there's too much Gen Z stuff, and the worst part, the thing that destroys the movie, is that you're supposed to be following the journeys of these two teenage girls, but you're following the adults, and you're not following the girls. You're following Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. And so at the end of the movie, you're just kind of reminded that oh yeah, both of them are good actors, both of them know how to act, and both of them did a great job in the movie. And the kids, they just got totally shafted. They got totally thrown on the side. Jake got thrown on the side. Mark Harmon got thrown on the side. So just overall, I did not like the movie. I would not recommend it. I would say just go back and watch the original again. The original is in, the 2000s movie. So anyways, please like this video and comment what did you think of Freakier Friday. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.